Hello, Happy New Year everybody. For those of you who aren't aware, I've moved into training now and I'm no longer assigned at Station 233. I'm Training Officer 183. Hopefully I'll be able to get out there more and see folks and be able to do some more one-on-one training as we move into the new year. That's definitely one of our goals. But I've been wanting to get a video put together like this for a while to try and get you some more information, hopefully make things a little bit easier to learn. So this is the first video of hopefully more, not just ARFF stuff, but moving into other training subjects as well that'll come from the training cadre. So the topics we're going to cover in today's training are going to include badging updates and some training reminders, the security identification display area, which is referred to as the SIDA, passenger service flights that are going on now at San Bernardino Airport, and responses for non-aircraft incidents on the airport. When you log into ANTN Digicast, you're going to need to go to the assignments link up here on the top. If you're using your cell phone, it is in a drop-down menu, but you want to choose assignments. When you choose assignments, you'll see our pre-set up groups for your assignments. You will see 3 of them. You'll have the ARFF badge, ARFF topics, and the SIDA all access. One of the things that throws people off on this is these red and green dots over here at the end that say completion status. Just don't pay attention to those. If I send you an email saying you need to do your topics and you log in and you see a red dot next to your ARFF badge, unless I told you to go in and do something in that because the airport added something to it, don't worry about it. We do keep track of everything and we make sure that you stay compliant as long as you're doing the training that we let you know needs to get done. Likewise goes that if you see a green dot and I told you that you needed to get your ARFF topics done, so say you sign in and you see this green dot here on the ARFF topics line and you think, hey, I'm good, I still need you to get those done because, again, we're on an 11-month rotation, so we need to log in and do those topics. In your ARFF badge, you should only have a few to watch. It takes about an hour. When you get to the ARFF topics, I know that there's about 10 in here. Some of them are 2 parts to cover our various topics that are required to be covered by the FAA, which is why there's 10 in here and 5 in Vector Solutions. When you complete them, some of them do have a test available at the end, like it says here. One of the areas that we've had some issues is people will complete the class, and they may have even taken the test, but there's a completion box or something to click at the end, and it gets missed, and it doesn't record it as being done. At that point, if you just log back in, open the test, usually you can close it out, and it shows that you've completed the test. Right. So after that, you do have the SIDA all access stuff as well. It is a 2-year expiration on that stuff. And again, if you log in, see a red dot, it means they may have added something that we'll need to do the next time we do the training, unless they ask us to get it taken care of right away. And in which case, I'll send you an email notifying you that there's class in the SIDA all access group that you need to be completed by a certain date and which class it is. Again, just make sure you're doing the ones that you're instructed to in the email. If you start doing other ones, it really does tend to throw things off, and then we have to redo them anyways to get you back on the right timeline. Okay, everybody, a couple things to talk about with badging renewals. Number one, we want to make sure that we're getting the online badge training done like we talked about in that last section. We have to get that done every 12 months, right? And so it needs to be within that 12-month window. Sometimes Digicast is sending you out emails the month before saying, hey, do this training, you're about to expire. Please wait for me to send you an email saying, okay, now's the time. We want you to do that training the month of your birthday so that you don't go beyond the 12 consecutive calendar months by doing it a month early when it comes to next year. You'll need to fill out an application when you come in to do your renewal every time. Same application that we filled out, we just have to do that one every single time. And then you're going to want to also, we got to get our driver's training done. So our driver's training consists of you getting out there, driving the vehicles that you're going to be operating when you work at 233, logging that training. We need to make sure that we're recording and capturing that training. This is something that the FAA is cracking down on. And inspectors, when they come and do our annual inspection, are looking at our driver's training records. At this point, we're probably doing about the bare minimum that we should be doing. We should be doing more, and hopefully we can get a little bit more robust driver's training program coming up as soon as all the vehicles are functioning correctly and repaired. If you ever want to come out and do driver's training to get comfortable with the rigs, please contact myself or one of the other captains at 233, and we will have no problem spending some time with you, keeping you comfortable with the rigs and knowing what you're doing when you get out there. Also, when you come in to renew, you're going to have to make sure you have your driver's license with you. And every 2 years, we will have to do that full TSA background check again. So that means you're going to have to do all that SIDA training online. You're going to have to bring in your passport if you have one, your driver's license, and if you do not have a passport, you'll be bringing in either your you'll be bringing in both your birth certificate and your social security card. Before you leave the badging office, please make sure that they did your badging expiration correctly. We have an agreement with the airports that we will expire our badges at the end of the month instead of on your birthday like the rest of the airport, and sometimes the badging office just falls back into doing it how they do it for the rest of the airport. So please make sure your badge expires on the correct date before you leave, which is the end of the month of your birthday month. Remember, when we're out of the station, we need to be displaying our badges correctly, meaning on a lanyard like this around your neck or by using the armband. Either way is acceptable. Obviously, if we're responding to any sort of a fire, we will not need to have those displayed outwardly because that would be a threat to us wearing our turnouts and stuff. If you do lose your badge, please let us know immediately so that the badging office can be notified, and they can deactivate that badge and we will get a new one made for you. As of now, the airport is not charging us for lost badges. They're not charging us for renewals, things like that. We don't want to abuse that privilege, so please make sure we're keeping track of our badges. But if you do lose it, it is a security thing. Let us know so that we can get a new one made up for you and get the old one deactivated. Last thing I want to mention about our badges, and this one I know has become a pain for everybody. However, your badge, if you do not scan it on an airport badge reader for 30 days, it will go inactive. Now that doesn't mean it's expired, it just means that we have to have the badging office change or go back into the system and reactivate your badge. When they do that, you have 24 hours then to scan your badge on an airport badge reader so that your badge stays good for another 30 days. I understand some of you out in some of those outlying stations in the South Desert or at 53s may have issues with that, and that's okay. Just if you know you're going to be coming to the airport to work a shift, let me or one of the other captains know within 24 hours before you show up so that we can send the badging office an email advising them to reactivate your badge so that it's good to go once you show up. The badge readers at the ARFF Training Center will also make that recognition of your badge and buy you another 30 days. So if you're just driving around in the area, stopping by the ARFF Training Center, badge in the front door, badge in the gate, either of those will keep your badge working great. So what is the SIDA? The SIDA stands for Security Identification Display Area, and that's the area that is within the part of the airport where that passenger service is taking place. And this is where we really kind of fall into the TSA requirements and the airport security plan and being able to have this passenger service coming in and out of the airport. Remember, when we talk about displaying your badge and getting in and out of areas, it really does mean it's the person that they're looking at, not the vehicle. And I've had that question a few times, and when we talk about the gates here in a minute, people say, well, why do I got to badge in? I'm driving the big green ARFF vehicle. And the analogy we like to make is, well, nobody said that the terrorist tied you up in the station and jumped off onto the vehicle and is now driving around, is going to drive it into a plane full of passengers. So you have to prove that you, the person, has the authority to go into that area, and it's not just a vehicle. And if you watch, operations folks, security folks, they're following the same procedures as well. So let's look a little bit now at what that SIDA area is throughout the airport and the areas that you need to be concerned with, or at least understand the right way to get in and out so that we don't get phone calls. So looking around the SIDA area, we want to start showing you what you'll run into as you're driving around the airport. So starting by pulling out of station 233 here, as you see us doing on the ARFF rig. Don't forget that there is the walkway area that UPS uses to get their personnel to and from the building. So keep an eye out for pedestrians there. As you pull out of the station and you veer to the left a little bit here, what you'll come across is our first gate. We'll talk about those gates a little bit in a later section here, but this is the first gate, or the southern gate, that you'll run into for the SIDA area. As you see on the ground here, there's a big white line. On that white line it says security or SIDA area. And that white line goes all the way down towards UPS. We do not want to cross that white line until or without badging in to prove that we're capable to be in that area. As you get down towards UPS, you can see here where it doglegs to the left a little bit and then continues on towards the movement area again. As you see, UPS has all their stuff neatly set up within that line so that they're not crossing in and out of that line. You cannot cross in and out of the line without proving that you're allowed to be in there. It goes all the way down past the blast fence, following the straight line here, past where the back of the aircraft is, into where their storage is for their containers. If you go around the service road, you come out the backside here, you'll notice that there's a line on the ground here. This is where it starts. You can see it goes a little bit of a diagonal off the service road, but it does directly come right off the edge of that service road. It continues on. Again, the same white line. Don't cross into it without badging in. So up here at the north end, you can't enter the SIDA. You have to go all the way down to the gate to make entry to prove you're allowed to be in there. You can see the SIDA makes a little bit of a sharp turn here, and it moves on back towards the terminal area and towards the hangars. The one thing we do want to remember with the SIDA is that there is the exception in us responding to an emergencies, and if we are en route to an emergency, we do not have to do the whole badge in procedure. We can enter from any point. Once the emergency is done, we have to go back to normal operations. There are two SIDA gate locations, the one by the station, and then on the north end, there's one located right here up in the corner. As you can see, we approach, it's right there just off the corner of the hangar and the secure cargo area. And before we can enter the SIDA, we have to go through the gate procedures. When you approach the SIDA gate, we don't want to drive underneath the gate arm. We've had issues already at the airport with one of the fuel trucks having the gate arm come down onto it. So position yourself just off to the side of the gate arm, whether it's over by the fire station or over here on the north side. When you hop out, you're going to go over and have to badge in to the badge reader. As you enter your code, stand by there and make sure the gate arm goes up. The gate arm going up signifies that your code was read, your badge was acknowledged, and the system recognizes that you have authorization to enter into the SIDA. The lines are monitored by cameras and security, and if there's not a correlating badge entry with crossing the line, they make phone calls. Once you are in the SIDA, you're able to exit anywhere the lines exist. You don't have to go back out of the gates. You just have to enter in the gates. So you can see here, anywhere on the line you can exit out of that SIDA. The road that goes behind the blast fence, or the service road, that starts just between the blast fence and Delta, is one way we can get over to the other side of the airport without having to badge in and out of the SIDA. Because this area goes around the SIDA, it is a way that we can get through there without having to do your badging. So if you go through this roadway, you're not violating any procedures by not badging in. It's the same one that we can go out and flow water on in the morning when you're checking out the rig, making sure everything works. Driving up there is a great place to kick on the pump and flow a little bit of water, do some pump and roll, make sure everything's working correctly. Just on the other side of where that orange fence sits is the SIDA. So that, even though it's not painted on the ground, that's where the security area ends. So off to the left is that identification area requirements. Over here on the right side of the road, that's where we don't have to show it, or where we don't have to badge in. Be careful going up and down this road because other tenants at the airport also use that to transit back and forth, especially the ones that don't have access into the SIDA, such as Unical, AeroPro, and a few of the other companies that do go back and forth use that road quite a bit now. And if you're coming from the other way, just without crossing that line, there's your access point going from north to south. All right, so in addition to your badges, we also need to be aware that there's going to be permits for our vehicles coming soon. Working with the airport, still not exactly sure how we're going to take care of that. I don't think we're going to need to get all of our vehicles permitted, our personal vehicles. But what it will mean is that if you pull into the airport and you're going to drive beyond Station 233 from that gate 3B, then you're going to have to go into the station and get a window hanger that hangs on your rearview mirror so that it identifies you as being authorized to drive in and around that airport. This is a work in progress. They've looked at a number of different ways to try and do this, and it may change, so hang in there with us. More information will be coming, but if you've heard about permits, that's what it's leaning towards right now. Last few things about the SIDA. Eventually, they hope that UPS, FedEx, and the tower area will have their own secure identification display areas set up that they manage and look after. But as of right now, like you saw in the video, the primary SIDA that they have set up goes from the terminal all the way through UPS. UPS does not have their own security plan in place yet, so we have to treat that area just like we would treat the rest of the SIDA and make sure we're not just blasting through their ramp area, because it does fall into that same requirement to display your badge to get in. Last bit about the SIDA is that while most people are looking at it as it's only technically active during the airline operations, we've been asked, and airport-wide has been asked, to treat the SIDA as it is in effect 24/7, meaning if you're going to be driving through that area, you want to badge in and badge out regardless of what time or day, what time of the day it is, and what day of the week it is, whether there's airline operations going on or not. And that gets us A, into the good habit of doing it, and B, if things do change and they extend the hours of the SIDA, we're already used to badging in and out all the time. By now, most of us are pretty comfortable with getting in and out of the gates, knowing that only one person can pass through a gate at a time. But with all the security stuff, the doors are the same now. So over at Luxair, to get out of Luxair and onto the ramp, you actually have to badge out of the door, and only one person can go through the door at a time. Remember, an escort cannot escort another badged person at the airport. And, well, this technically means the same thing at the front door of the station. This past August 2022, San Bernardino Airport started their first airline service Part 121 operation for scheduled passenger service with Breeze Airlines. Breeze currently operates two types of aircraft, the Embraer 195 and the Airbus A220. The first aircraft Breeze began bringing in and out of San Bernardino was the Embraer 190 on a flight route that went from Provo to San Francisco to San Bernardino and then back. Come February, the flights will be arriving at approximately 11 in the morning, departing at 11:35. The aircraft is 118 feet long, has a 94-foot wingspan, and carries 4,267 gallons of fuel. The Embraer 190 has seating for 96 passengers, and it falls under a B index. Starting February 16th, on Thursdays and Sundays, Breeze Air will be bringing in an Airbus A220 from Las Vegas and Hartford, Connecticut. That flight will arrive at approximately 11:55 in the morning and depart at 12:30 in the afternoon. The Airbus A220 is 114 feet in length, has a wingspan of 115 feet, and carries 5,790 gallons of fuel when fully loaded. The A220 has a seating capacity of 100 to 135 passengers, depending on configuration, and it is a narrow-body aircraft with a single aisle down the middle. Like the Embraer 190, it is also a B-indexed aircraft by the length of the aircraft. We hope to have more aircraft-specific training coming up in the spring, where personnel get a chance to see both the aircraft up close and the systems that are important to us as ARFF firefighters. All right, last, I'd just like to briefly cover some things to consider if you're working at Station 233 and you have an incident on the airport that isn't aircraft related. If we do respond to a medical aid, ringing alarm, water flow, anything like that on the airport, we are technically out of index, which means we aren't providing the coverage to the airport with the ARFF vehicles that is expected by the FAA and air carriers. So there's a few things that we need to think about when we do respond to these things, especially as we start looking into that air carrier operation hours, right? So let's take a look at the matrix. Because the airport carries a C index, it's expected that there'll be 3,000 gallons and dry chem available to respond to an aircraft at all times. This means when we're committed to a medical aid, a ringing alarm, or any other sort of non-aircraft related incident at the airport, we are technically out of index. Where this becomes an issue is those times just prior to the air carrier's landing and the air carrier's taking off. And this only has to deal with passenger service, those Part 121 operations where fare-paying passengers are on board the aircraft. So as we look at the aircraft and the time it's getting ready to approach, about 5 minutes beforehand till 5 minutes after it leaves, we have to make sure that we are in index, and if we go out of index, then some procedures do have to take place. So if we get dispatched by comm center within that window of air carrier operations, we really need to look, can we make a difference by providing immediate BLS care for that patient based on the dispatch nature? And if we do feel so, then we will respond to that incident. We'll need to notify the tower that we're out of index, and we'll need to notify the operations that we're out of index as well. As you look at the flow chart here, there's some things that you will need to consider as we do go out of index and within that window of time. Again, we're looking at will BLS measures make a difference? If we're out of index, that aircraft cannot land. If it's on the ground, anybody who's on the aircraft will have to get off of the aircraft, which is why we want to notify operations that will be responding as well. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stay available in quarters and let the responding ALS units take care of the incident. So again, if we do have to respond to one of these incidents, we want to make sure we're doing the proper notifications in the event that there is an air carrier coming in so that the correct procedures can occur and we don't have an aircraft landing at the airport while there is no ARFF coverage. So we want to make sure that we notify airport operations that we are responding to a medical aid and where that is at. We want to make sure that we're notifying the tower that we are out of index and committed to an incident on the airport. And we want to make sure that if comm center isn't aware of the incident, that we're notifying them as well for obvious reasons. Okay, this pretty much ties up the information we wanted to get out to you today. Looking at, again, just the badging stuff as it's going on throughout the year, what you need to do to keep yourself current there. Talked about the SIDA, how to keep yourself out of trouble with that. Just a little bit of an update on the passenger service and some exciting stuff going on here around the airport and what to do if you fall out of index. Hopefully this was good for you. We know that it isn't the same as getting here and doing it, but hopefully it's a little bit better than trying to do a death by PowerPoint on Vector Solutions. So attached to the Vector Solutions assignment here, there will be an evaluation. Please fill it out. I have thick skin. I could take it. I know the video quality was probably and the sound quality could probably be better. And as we move on into this more and try and get more stuff done and out to you, we can improve upon that as well. But fill out that eval. Let us know what you think, and so that we can improve these videos for you guys and get you some better information and some quality training, even if you can't make it down here to the airport or to our other stuff all the time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My cell phone number, pretty much everybody out there has. Email address within the department. If you need to get a hold of me with any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks a lot, everybody, and Happy New Year, and stay safe.